They say the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's the color of one's skin and the beauty of one's eye. So many of us talk about dark skin, light skin, what is and what ain't within, but we overlook it all for the booty. You see, the physical has no bearing on the elegance and grace of the spiritual and mental one that's inside you, that creates the only one of you that it takes millions to make. I'm talking black and light, not white, the substance of nothingness, a blank page of anger and rage, giving you the belief of death, not rest. Life is a cipher, a circle that never ends, passing by trends and fads of trends, only to come black again. Speak of truth, justice, and freedom. None of that is possible without unity. The you and I self, transit of you, the inner scope of self-love and hate. Travel away from the lies on the surface to keep from the unjust or ingesting their truth of their perception. The gods and goddesses are in we trust. Everything you hear, smell, and see is creator he. Everything you feel, learn, and touch is creation she. Does that make us gods as we go on debating the source of the we and the he and she? I am that I am. The truth is something found in what others want you to see and believe. Live to be real. Reality. Believe.
atlwebradio.com. You are now tuned in to Black Conscious Voices. I'm Jamal Whited, a.k.a. Cyber DJ to CK, and I'm being joined by my good brother, Mike SYPHA. Mike, what's going on, man?
Greetings, peace and blessings, love, life, forever.
Amen. For most people in the world right now, they are being warned about contact and being warned about this. And I ain't gonna tell you no lie, Mike. I'm tired of hearing about it, man. But that it's definitely become a situation of concern because of the way the society is shifting based on the fear of. But right now, most of the world is in a panic, in a frenzy about the coronavirus, COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted to, of course, since we reloaded, man, we've been locked in on the changing the narrative, and I find it almost comical that about the same amount of time, about a month and a half or so here, we've been speaking about changing the narrative, and the very narrative, a different narrative that is being changed before our very eyes.
Yeah, brother, for me, I don't think that it's ever really been anything different. I think we've always been in that battle. Um, I think that the battle for us is consciousness. The battle for us is self awareness. The battle for us is knowing when to unplug.
Mm.
And we haven't, as a whole, we haven't, we buy so much into the small things, the technology, what they say, the evolution of, that we miss the bigger structure, the bigger story, the bigger presence of what buying into these things and the effect that they have on us, on the scale that we're not seeing being weighed out. For example, um, Bluetooth, these earbuds and earpods and these cell phones and things of that nature that has us really reeling right now because we don't know what effect they're actually having on our physicality, on our, and more so than our physical, our mental. How the energy in our brains is being tapped into through some of these devices and things of that nature. How the monetization from these devices affect us every day. We was just rapping, and I was on the phone trying to clue some folks into us going on the air, and I made mention of YouTube. My location device, none of that is turned on. But as soon as I get off the phone call, something about YouTube pops up on my phone. So the effect of the narrative being spoke of, you know, uh, being inundated by not knowing what we're dealing with, but just seeing it as something good because everybody else sees it as something good, has a way of putting us in a position and opening ourselves up to being destroyed and destructed. And you can take that, on one side of the scale all the way to the other. And I speak of that from the aspect of look at what's being done to us in the news and the media and whatnot with this coronavirus. We are being inundated with so much information, but all of it is to the effect and blasted on us and at us from the effect of destruction and annihilation and whatnot. How many of us are actually investigating and researching and looking into this from a holistic aspect and point of view?
I think the better question is probably how many of us actually can.
Yeah, how many of us can? But even from a logical standpoint, even from a standpoint of looking at what this type of virus or this type of situation does to the body, who is it affecting? Who is it affecting the most? Not only who is it affecting the most, who, how many of us actually know somebody who actually is affected? You know, so there's many questions to be asked, brother. There's many situations and scenarios that we have to look into as far as the steps that we take, where we stand, and where do we go from the stance that we're at and in.
Right. I have for a long time felt like chemical radiation or warfare would be a serious hit to the society, and just based on all the individuals that were having a hand in it, here, there, and elsewhere. It's long since been one of those things that made me say that we really have to put something together to allow us opportunity to almost vanish, from situations like this, man, so that we can be in a closed environment that allows us to focus on the inner us. And I truly believe that in this process, just as you're speaking, man, we definitely have to investigate and dig deeper as far as how to keep our temples in order during these situations, during these public outbreaks and epidemics. At this point, the stories are so conflicting. 1 minute, it's we've gotten this many cases in this place, and this place is barely touched, and then just minutes later, the news is changing, and so many thousands of people have it. I was actually on the phone with someone in Ohio earlier in the week, Sunday, Monday, and they were avidly watching the news programs, and there, as far as they knew, at that point, there were no cases of coronavirus, whereas only 3 days later, only just a mere 3 days later, I'm getting, I got a direct news link that stated there were over 100,000 cases of coronavirus, and when you see conflicting stories like that, it makes you really wonder, like, what's really going on? What is really going on? I asked my brother Mike shortly before coming on air, does he know anyone that has contracted the coronavirus or has tested positive for the coronavirus personally, or even by way of? And his answer was the same as mine at this point, which is no. So what I wanted to do today, because I did say that this week we were going to open up for some phone calls. What I wanted to do is first and foremost let you guys know that we can be reached at 404-919-9363. That's area code 404-919-9363. My question today is, I want to find out how many people that may be checking us out actually know somebody that has contracted or that has tested positive for coronavirus. I'm in a city that is now being, they call Atlanta a hot spot when it comes to the virus now. Believe it or not. I think we just had a release of, I think they said it was AJC stated there were 99, new details stating there were 99 cases of coronavirus now confirmed in the state of Georgia. So, and that's a light number based on, so many million people that live in the state of Georgia. But still, if that is in fact true, then, that means that the virus is amongst us here. And we definitely need to act accordingly. I do want to say this. We have forwarded the agenda for quite some time that we all, especially our people, blacks, we have to be aware of what's going on. But we are so tied into believing that this is our awareness, or that the computers are our awareness. And I think we need to seek awareness elsewhere. Because I think at this point, based on the news anyway, it's becoming a rally towards anarchy and complete and total chaos. And some of the things that we are reminded to do in situations that are tight. One of the things that we're reminded to do is to, thank you, brother, is to is to definitely remain calm. And I know that's not an easy thing to do when such things as our lives and livelihoods are being threatened. But that is definitely one of the biggest factors to overcoming any situation is calmness and the ability to utilize open mind and to think. Brother Mike?
Well, I want to digress a little bit, speaking from the aspect of chemical warfare. Um, we have to look at how long this has been going on. Um, you think back to some of the first world wars and the things that they did to humanity and to the atmosphere um, with the bombs and the stuff that they dropped in Nagasaki and places of that nature, Hiroshima and things like that. Um, Again, playing, just testing, just trying to see what this will do and what effect it'll have. Then you come on up and you look at Chernobyl.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the 3 Mile Island incidents. All these are, in my estimation, these are not oops accidents. These are tests.
Right.
We are experiments, and they are experimenting to see what they can do to maintain their sovereignty, so to speak, in an atmosphere that's really not conducive to their existence or just to their populace. We have to recognize and realize the reality of things that go on around us from the smallest scale to the largest. We are not, and I say that again, we are not important to them.
Mm-hmm.
We are test. We are guinea pigs and mice in a maze. Something we was rapping about earlier, brother, that in my mental, you have to excuse me, it's kind of sporadic right now.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on.
So much going on, yes,
with the ideology behind these, what I call attacks.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What is the purpose of it? What is it getting us to do? What does it have our attention on and expounding on, spreading words, not just viruses, but words and ideals to one another? What is our focus on? And a lot of times our focus is on just what they put in the media or what they put out there for us to look at, see, hear, believe, and think about. My focus or my thought is about really what is representing, the connection and the disconnection. How do we maintain focus on what the attack is really about?
Right.
How do we maintain focus on how do we steadfast and stay strong? And what we've been speaking about, brother, is self-resiliency, self-reliance, and the fact that this physical body, this physical plane, this material plane that we're existing on is not really what they all make it up to be for us. That's why they keep our focus on something other than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a purpose to that. That's why we have to be so tenacious in really looking inward and solving our own riddles and problems and solving our own dysfunctions and our own diseasements and things of that nature, so that the test that we are under now
Mm-hmm.
will be a lot easier for us to focus in on and solving the riddles and the problems.
Mm.
claim to know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been raised to ask questions about everything. I've been raised with a mentality of thinking logically and chronologically uh, uh, from the aspect of what's not being sold, what's not being told, and why. If I can't ask you why, and you can't come up, or every time I ask why, you have a problem with that question and no solutions or answers, then there's something else going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we need to really get outside the box. We have to really get outside of, again, the narrative of what's being blasted to us and inundated in our psyche to get us to focus in on this one little pinhole that's in the wall,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and creates tunnel vision so we can't really see everything that's going on around us.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree, man. It's funny. We hadn't even touched upon the very first Corona scenario over in Wuhan, and Brother Greg had shared with myself and you the national security memorandums,
Mm-hmm.
and it was funny. I was reading through them, and I was trying to figure out which president was actually responsible for adopting them into foreign policy for the U.S. And come to find out, it was actually Ford. Gerald Ford was the one that was in place. He was the president when I was born, actually. That's why I was finding it kind of funny. But anyway, there have, like you were saying, just to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying as far as the different scenarios that have taken place now in our past, in our not too distant past, where, you know, they could have been quote unquote testing zones, but they were made to look like accidents or this, you know, scenario.
Tuskegee.
All these different scenarios,
I mean,
bro.
come on.
Right. All of those situations. I mean, all the way from the very first major scare we had after 9/11, with it might have been anthrax or one of the other, you know, things that could go airborne and take out a lot of people. But each one of these things, Ebola, swine flu, West Nile, all of these different scenarios, piece by piece by piece, have added on to and are complete replicas of what it would look like if the government was attempting to control the population.
Not only that, brother, we gotta also consider the fact that all these things are connected one way or another, because when you building something that is irrevocably in a situation where you can't deny it or get rid of it or cause some type of cure, then you gotta consider the fact that these are steps to build something so that we are not able to overcome. So you talking about H1N1, you're talking about HIV/AIDS, you're talking about the coronavirus, you're talking about the swine flu, you're talking about Ebola, you're talking about all of these things as building blocks to something greater.
Right.
More than likely, not factually, but more than likely, because once it's in your system, I mean, I just mentioned Tuskegee, the what was it, the
Experiments, supposedly.
experiments where they give us what they give them brother, syphilis.
I believe it was syphilis.
You know, when you looking at all the things that people are coming up with, these new diseases and new contractions that are linked to some kind of way, keeping the populace down. You know, all these are connected to herpes, AIDS, all these new diseases and new finds that are all connected to something that is building blocks to keeping a control of the human population, and really to be able to say, okay, it's time. Let me hit this switch, release this, and this is what's going to bring it all together, and it's going to knock out this many people. It's going to knock out this population for sure, or that population for sure. There's nothing new under the sun, but there's nothing deniable about science and mathematics. So when you release something and you put it in the air, or you put it in the water, or then you release something else. Either it's going to cancel what you released out before, right, or it's going to add to it to make that strain stronger.
More potent, that's right.
So we have to really be open-minded or thoughtful to consider the steps that are being taken with these releases of all of these chemicals and all of these viruses and all of these diseases, to figure out what the construct ultimately is and is for.
Tuskegee was a very deep situation, and I related to one that we have been entrenched in for probably about 20 years here currently, probably since about 2000. At the time, when they were getting ready to start doing the testing for syphilis, African American men were, that were in the study were simply told they were receiving free health care from the federal government of the U.S. And it was that easy at that point. So many brothers lacked. So many brothers, were in need. So this is an opportunity to go and get, similar to the situation that's going on the 21st here, down at the school where a brother can go and get some understanding about what's going on in his physical makeup. Well, I don't want to be the bearer of any negativity behind the flu shot. But this flu shot, man, I've always been very, 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 very apprehensive about administering or receiving for myself or any of my family members and even friends. I'd always speak on, I'm not really up on that flu shot. And I always wondered, what exactly does that flu shot contain? And I don't know for a fact, but it's similar to what you were just saying, Mike, putting something out and then either something that's going to cancel it or something that's going to help increase it. Let's just say, everybody that took that flu shot is just a tad more susceptible to these chemical blasts that are being, brought about every few years, every few months now. It's just so many different ways, and at the end of the day, what's the scary part about it is like, the brothers that took part in the Tuskegee experience took them years to find out that this was a ploy.
Right.
To find out how a black male lives with untreated syphilis.
You know what another question is what did that turn into once it was untreated? And how did it
a disease that we were told to stay clear of because it's no cure for it.
Exactly.
And
how did it affect the generations that, if you don't know, and you're going out handling your daily life, your everyday life, you still connecting with sisters and whatnot, and if you don't know you got this and you passing this on, you still having relations and whatnot, and then these your partners and whatnot are contracting these strains, and then they go back to their families and communities and whatnot, and then they passing it on. How many? What did they test? 40 brothers?
They said that it was supposed to last for 6 months, but it ended up lasting for 40 years.
40 years. But how many people did they test?
On 399 had latent syphilis, and 201 did not have the disease and were intentionally infected.
Man.
600 total.
600 people?
Yeah, 600 brothers.
And they didn't go back and contact nobody, right? They didn't go back to their communities and have no type of contact with nobody. So the 600 that they tested and so-called ultimately, brought into fruition about what they was doing, and I don't even know whether they tried to grant them any type of cures or not. But that's beside the point when you talk about 600 people that went back to their communities and who they contacted or connected with or breathed on or whatever, shared saliva, shared blood, whatever. That's 600 people, man. Just one other person doubles that. And when they go back to their communities, that triples that.
That's
so
right.
What my point to that is, we don't know how that's affected the generations that are right here, right now.
Right.
And what they can withstand or not when it comes to the additives of these different chemicals and viruses. So,
along with trending foods, trending drinks.
oh, brother. You see my point?
Yeah, almost definitely.
And then we didn't even add that in.
Right.
So
that's the other way, because you hit me with the Cheerios this morning, so
yes, sir.
I had to think about it, and I just added it to it. But yeah, that's real. Along with the trending foods, the foods that they make sure they put in front of you on the TV every 5 minutes or every half hour on the hour, or that they make sure it's coming through first on your cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Where
do we stand? Damn near alone.
Damn near alone, brother, and shook,
scared,
brother. So
because we don't know that we don't know.
right.
So all we left with is to believe what they blast us with, which means that they control the narrative.
Amen. There it is.
Which we have no more ability to change the metaphysics, because our minds are so inundated with their narrative.
Right.
So we don't have the power over the matter no more.
Then you insert drugs and alcohol into the very same picture,
and we being hollowed out.
And the whole, it makes it to where we're susceptible and wide open for anything.
Everything.
That's right.
Everything. That's why it's so important for us to go back inside ourselves, and check what we're doing to ourselves, check what we're bringing into our psyche and bringing into our physicality, because ultimately, for me, it's just for me, the physical has no bearing on the spiritual and mental one. Listen to the song. It really don't. It's just a vehicle. It's just transportation,
right, for
the realm that we in. So
but Mike, and I dig that, and that right there is overall, and that's the picture that it would be lovely if we can help others to visualize. But so many of us are trapped in the life that we know, because we don't tend to bear witness to the spirit life that we led in the womb of our parents, or even being held, being distributed from the father to the mother, and all of these different processes were different processes where the spirit lived
right
prior to a physicality,
exactly.
Right? And what we have to keep in mind is that when this physical vehicle, as you so well stated, man, runs out of gas.
Hey.
We have to understand and be strong enough mentally to know that our spirit dwells on, our spirit moves on. That's another thing about death.
That's if you hadn't been diseased up to the point where it can't, where your soul has been taken.
Right. To where it hasn't been completely inundated.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's deep.
The connection, to be able to connect is what is the saying? The ability to believe in something that you can't see, hear, feel, or touch. But the ludicrous ideology of not being able to feel it just because you can't see it is where we're left. So now we thinking since we can't see it, then we can't feel it, we can't hear it. But the crazy thing is, like I was speaking to you the other day about frequencies. We all are, those who survive and have survived on consciousness, on those lessons and those connections and those teachings from our ancestors that guide us into and out of things. The ones who are able to listen and connect and know that that's something other than poof magic. We exist on those frequencies because in a lot of situations, those frequencies, those lessons, those guidances have saved us, saved our physicality from a destructive process or manner or a situation one time or another. So it's more to it than meets the eye. It's more to it than, oh, thank you, Jesus.
That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
Because
it's still
it's still together. I dig it. It's still all the same picture. But again, man, it's and that's why it is so important to guard your mind space. I think right now, if there was a ploy to get people away from the news, a ploy to get people to unplug their televisions, to unplug their computers, to unplug they leave their phones to the side, and of course at this point that's almost ludicrous thinking because, truthfully, man, I can't remember seeing too many people that actually own a cell phone not engulfed in it. Yeah, not engulfed in it. Like completely engulfed in it.
And the crazy
at
thing
some
is,
point in time or another.
If you don't have them, what are you going to use?
Yeah. I mean, connection wise, you lost these days. I'm gonna tell you what.
Say that again.
Connection wise, yeah. And what's crazy, bro, is I'm gonna tell you the craziest thing is, it used to be the norm to get in your vehicle or to go out your way, figure out the location where you're going to, and physically navigate.
Put your mind and your physicality together to connect
to navigate,
the process of getting to where you need to go.
Man, I'd see kids that were born and raised in Atlanta to go from one side of town to another side of town, got to pull up a GPS.
Yep.
I see kids who are, might have to call a loved one like a father or a brother or a mother or a sister, and they got to find a number in their contacts because the number's not
it's not entrenched in their mind.
It's not locked in. And in just my short time here, man, in just my almost 45 years here, man, I've watched, in my youth, I knew over 100 numbers,
easy,
phone numbers by heart. They weren't written down. As I grew up, it was my biggest challenge to lock these numbers in my head. Locations, addresses. So I don't even understand how we got so far so fast, man. But at the end of the day, man, all of this stuff is, again, this is well planned. This is nothing that is happening by the seat of anybody's pants, brother.
Right.
It's too entangled to be such.
Right. And that circles us right on back around to, What steps do we take? Where do we stand actually right now?
Yeah.
The question again. I mean, a lot of what my thing is not so much trying to display what I know or what I don't know, even though I'd rather display what I don't know so I can learn more.
Right.
But to ask questions, right. to ask questions that we should all be asking, and first and foremost of ourselves, but then of each other, to find out where we stand, and not only where we stand, but where we moving to, you know, because right now it's a lot of dead ends, man. A lot of street corners are being cut off. A lot of streets, period. A lot of where we can go or should go is actually being narrowed and being quarantined, should I say?
Yeah.
So, again, you know, I know that firmly I believe actions speak louder than words. Firmly I believe that honesty over righteousness. You know, I would rather be honest than right any day. So honestly, what am I and what are we willing to give up to maintain who and what we are and our connection to what created us? To me, that's the biggest question. And if our physical being, if us caring more about us being in a physical form means more to us than the energies that possess our ability to navigate our way through the science and the math of our creation, then we've been lost, and we are going to continue to be lost. And really, what chance do we have to find ourselves?
I think at this point I'm with you on something that you said that's very, very, very pertinent, man, and that is receiving new information by way of from a childlike state. Yep. And that will be one that is not. That's to say that it's not to say it's not learned, but it's not mature learning. So it's a learning that would produce new questions.
Always.
Always new questions. So, I'm totally with you on that. I want to take a break, and we're gonna come back. I wonder when I come back, man. I want to talk about because we again, like we normally do, man. We've listed and we've stated a lot of the.
A lot of situations and questions and scenarios.
Right. So when we come back, Mike, I want to talk to the people about how to hold strong right now.
No doubt.
And what can be done to keep strength resonated in your minds as opposed to fear and discomfort and
right.
And everything else that comes with that. So we're gonna get ready to take a quick break. And let you listen to a little bit of this good jazz, and then we're gonna come back about 5 minutes or so, and we're gonna offer some real life opportunity and thought-provoking views as to how to stay safe and what we should be focused on at this point in time.
Contact us, y'all.
Yeah, hit us up 404-919-9363. That's 404-919-9363. We're also taking calls from abroad. I believe we're country code 01. Again, 404-919-9363. Y'all give us a call. ATL Web Radio, Black Conscious Voices. Got you. Black conscious voices, man. I don't know if you see our faces over here, man. But man, we
they tell a tale, don't they?
Yeah, man. It's a lot. It's so much going on right now, in and around us. And you know, I call myself an elaborator, one that you know, from in certain instances, profound elaboration, but I've the more information is released, the more information that is talked about, it truly puts you into the state of mind of like, man, what is next? Where do we go from here? How do we pick up the ball and attempt to thrive? But it appears as though the meaning behind thrive is changing.
Mm-hmm. How about that?
Yeah. And with that, we have to we have to know or have some sense of knowing from our inner being that we're going in the right direction. But it's just so many factors now that makes it more than a stretch of the imagination. It turns into a true feeling now, and we have to be strong. We have to draw our strength from inside. We have to draw we have to rely on the one thing that we do have, and for me, in my opinion, that one thing is the Creator amongst us, the Creator, inside of us. Call it what you want to call it.
No doubt.
At this point, but it's the makers, the great makers peace inside of each of us. That is that intrinsic flow that gets us up to attempt to do better than we did the day before. And when we say do better, we're saying that in the light of a positive outcome, something that will bring forth a positive outcome or good feeling, enriching the spirit, not so much as good feeling to the hands or good feeling to the body, but yeah, man. So I mean, and at this point, man, truthfully, I've been saying that for forever, but now it's truly one of those things that is necessary to grasp a hold of, and truly investigate that. Something you said earlier in the last segment, Mike, that rings out is um, the clarity of our own being. Our mental clarity, our spiritual clarity, and just realizing that we have to. Unfortunately, we live in a world where we truly have to pick our poison as far as our forward movement, as far as our sustainment. However, and that's something that you have long spread to me, brother, and that is, our ground, the soil. There are so many different things that grow from our ground, from good healthy ground that we can sustain on, that we can live from, and one of the biggest pictures of propaganda right now is that we got to rush out to these stores and spend all of our, spend all of the remaining cash we have to get these necessities in order to continue on. And I just can't help but feel that is all as well a part of the overall plot.
How about that? How about that?
It seems like it's crazy because every single step of this process appears to me, or it feels like, they're all intermingled. They're all intertwined to bring about a certain outcome. And if you don't know by now, that outcome is anarchy, is chaos, to which the ones that are in, let's say, I'm not going to say control, but I would say the ones that are in cahoots can, at some point in time, trigger something that will take the people that are in hysteria or that are in the mind state of chaos or anarchy and wipe them out, because of not being able to sustain, not being able to protect, and not be able to truly understand what's going on within us as opposed to around us.
Something I asked a while ago, brother, and I know we talk about it quite often. What is the purpose of death? And and instead of adding my thought or my ideology behind that question, I'm gonna just leave that question to ponder on. What is the purpose of death? I mean, how is it that we see death as inevitable or a part of existence? What is the significance of it? What is the importance of it? What is its realm of functioning? What is its origin? Is it something that somebody decided? Is it something that somebody indoctrinated or pushed forward, or is it just always been? Because from what I see, and like I tell you all the time, I don't know nothing, but from what I see, motion creates time and change, all synonymous. Without one, you couldn't have the other. So in constant motion, in constant change, in constant shifting of time, in the realm of revolution or cycles and ciphers, if everything is going around and coming back around and going around and coming back around, no matter on what plane or what revolution, whether it's circle this way or circle that way or circle in between them two circles, it's in a constant rotation, then where does the end begin? Where does the end begin?
That's a that is a that's a deep one, brother. And truly, those are the questions that I personally believe that at this point in time, questions along those same lines are some of the questions that we have to dig deep and ask ourselves, and as well research, find out about, but at this point in time, and that's why I've long fallen off is how much of what we can research and how much of what we can see is legit. My father, one of the things my dad tells me.
That's a proven point to what you was just. Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, brother.
Yeah.
But that's a proven point to what we've been talking about when it comes to what you intake into your system. If you've been doing that every day anyway, then what are you sweating? Right. And I don't mean to go off the reservation a little bit, y'all, but.
Well, I'm gonna fill them in. And I'm sure everybody is now. If you're connected to social media, you've seen a few of the different descriptions of what's going on as far as people are really truly trying to help one another. Mm-hmm. And this came from a good brother of mine, that's a Muslim brother.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a couple of different messages like this, but they're basically messages to inform you of how to kind of stay clear of some of the stuff that's going on right now, and some of the stuff that could potentially come our way in the near future. Like Mike was saying, man, if you're already on a regimen that clarifies these types of attacks on our
Christ.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I love the way you use that right there. But yeah, if you are, then you are one in many that has to, for one, share understanding to bring about calm.
Yeah.
To enhance calm, and then number two, I think it's a matter of reaching out and beyond sharing, reaching out and actually being an example.
Exactly.
Actually being an example. Bro.
Exactly. Because it don't matter what I say. It don't matter what I say. It matters what I do.
Absolutely.
And my family, when I say my family, this brother here, anybody that knows me, 9 times out of 10 that know me well and who I'm in constant intermingling with,
mm-hmm.
they my family.
Right.
Anybody that knows me knows, that I've been trying to live a more clean life. I've been trying to, I've been a vegan for over 10 years now. And,
back before being a vegan was cool, I might add.
Yeah. Yeah. Before it was a trend or a fad.
Right.
And like I say, again, listen to my words, they come into things that we've done for so long, and they recycle them and bring them back as fads and trends because they figured out that what we were doing had nothing to do with trying to look good or trying to put on certain impressions. It was because that was the existence of life, the existence of living life, and life living us and for us and with us and through us. So at the point of, like the brother said, it becoming a fad, brothers and sisters who've been on that vegetarian, vegan, fruitism, real substance, real life substance in your system to maintain and continue the example, can you imagine where they at? But my point to that being, with my family, who knows, the trials and tribulations that I've been through, the things that I that have really tested me. Mm-hmm. And whether I failed, whether I passed, or whether I got in between the situation, I still exist. and I've still existed within the realm of trying to figure out what's real and what's not, what's true and what's fake, and what's right and righteous, and where the harm came in my doing. In other words, trying to make my bads good, my goods great, and my greats extraordinary. I don't talk about it a lot, but those who know me well enough see me go through it and have seen where I came from to the point of where I'm at now. And when I'm asked about it, then it's not always easy to talk about. But like I said, I'd rather be honest than right. So I'll tell you, where that started or why it started. Because if it helped me, then ultimately, hopefully, it'll help somebody else. My example, not what I say, but you seen where I came from, so you see where I'm at now. And if that's something that you think was an improvement, then deal with what got me to that point. Not me. Not me, but what I supposedly or so-called learned. What I so-called learned. So we have to all take from one another is what I'm really trying to say. We have to all look at each other with love and life, to the aspect of not trying to be a grandstander or grandiose or propose that I am it. Because even the greatest teachers learned from somebody, something. It's crazy because that joint that you just showed me, brother, if that's the case, then where did that garlic come? And I'm going to let you expound on that. I'm just hitting, some points around it. But where did that garlic come from? How about the ground and the minerals from the ground and.
And that's the very thing that you speak on a regular basis, bro. And I have to bear witness to the fact that in times in which I have resorted to adapting the vegetarian lifestyle, there was a point of clarity. Just removing certain toxins from my diet. I got a point, and that was one of the things I wanted to bring in. Well, first I'm going to go ahead and read this to you guys, because there's been a lot of different things that have been shared. This is one that came from a good brother of mine, actually one of my son's uncles. And he's a good brother, like I said. He's always been very peaceful. And you passed this around today to me. It said, good news, because everybody is aware of the coronavirus and all of that good stuff. It said, good news, Wuhan's coronavirus can cure itself by a bowl of freshly boiled garlic water. The old Chinese doctor proved its effectiveness. Many patients have also proven it to be effective. Recipe, take 8 chopped garlic cloves and 7 cups of water and bring to a boil. Eat and drink the boiled water from the garlic. Improved and cured overnight. Please share this with all your contacts, can help save lives. We were talking about some of the different things that people are saying to keep them safe and keep them healthy at this time where all of this now toxin has gone airborne, so to speak. And it can be transferred with a simple cough or a handshake. Or even just being in the same room with someone that is adversely affected. And I was going to, when we came back, I wanted to kind of share just a few things that might help you to see a little bit differently than what the average person is looking at right now. And to fortify yourself with the strength along with the knowledge to be able to withstand some of the things that are before us currently. But one of the things is I was going to tell the people there to, and I'm not going to promote any individual, but I will say to definitely go and get yourself a good holistic practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
Find one that that the people that are dealing with this holistic professional
That makes it their life work.
Right.
It ain't just playing or trying to make money off of you. Somebody who's entrenched in doing this, if nothing else for themselves, but for the love of humanity.
For the love of humanity, right? Yeah, and talk to these people. Talk to not only the people that that are actually entrenched in this as a life's mission, but the people that they're working with and helping.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I was in the process of, while you were talking, Mike, I know you saw I was over here just looking up holistic medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the beautiful things about Google reviews, man, is that you really get to see what the people actually felt about it. And people nowadays are so prone to going to review someone's business because they can either steer more people that way or
steer them
clear. There you go. And so like one of the holistic practitioners that I pulled up during this conversation, I looked at several of his reviews and they were phenomenal. People leaving him after dealing with this practitioner and leaving and feeling a little bit more in control of their own destiny, man.
Definitely.
And I think that's one of the things that we can do at this point. As opposed to running to the hospitals or running to the urgent care clinics or even our primary care physicians that are normally in the business of medicine for the personal gain.
No doubt.
And have normally joined a community of people that are in that same process that work hospitalization, that work pharmaceuticals. And it's a big process. It's a huge money-making process.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can find yourself, and that's another beautiful thing about Google, you can just put in holistic medicine or practitioners. And
Don't put that on them, bro. I mean, we know to a degree in order to learn you have to practice, but don't practice on me with the intent of telling me that you are actually healing me. And I say that from the aspect with much love of when you go to these, like you say, doctors and these hospitals and whatnot, these doctors who have private practices.
Yeah, the private
I'm going to practice on you privately.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to practice on you in a hospital until I get to a state of perfection,
right.
or to a state of actually knowing something, if nothing else,
Right.
So when you tell me, you got your own private practice, no, man, don't practice on me. Yeah. I'd rather go to somebody like these brothers and sisters who are dealing with naturalization and realization and, earth modes and things of that nature, because anywhere you go when it comes to actual teachings or scriptures or whatever you want to call them, tell you that, in creation, there's nothing that you can encounter that this earth hadn't fortified for you to heal,
mm-hmm.
Or to whatever you needed is provided for you right here, basically. So in that case, then let's take that for what it's worth. Let's take it as deep as we can possibly dive into it and research and do the diligence on finding what does what, why does it work the way that it does, why is it grown in the regions that it's grown in, and what type of minerals and soils and stuff cause what effects on different types of things that we are supposed to be putting in our bodies. That takes a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the practice out of it.
Absolutely.
Only practice from that point is maintaining the steps in doing so and putting that stuff in your system, the practice of how to grow it so it'll be readily available, more readily available for me every day than once every 6 months, 8 months, or a year.
Absolutely. I also felt like another step in grabbing some sanity in all of these scenarios currently, as well as finding yourself a good holistic doctor. One that, like Mike has said, one that is tried and true and is actually helping to heal people. Work with that person, work with the group, and find out more about the inner you and what makes you really tick. I also am here to recommend to you guys, we're recommending to you guys sustainable living. And that goes from the actual process that you're actually living in, all the way to the type of surroundings and the type of the structure that you're actually living in. And again, these are things that you can go and search right online and become more educated upon. I just pulled up something here while on the air about 10 ways to live more sustainably. And it listed out 10 benefits of sustainable living, and as well some living tips. And I was just gonna run through a couple of them real quick that I noticed were that I noticed would probably help make a difference in today's world. Number 8 from the list being, just like the brother Mike has spoke on in several occasions, is growing your own food, and to pay close attention to growing your herbs and being able to identify your minerals.
Exactly.
Because you have a lot of things that grow naturally that carry so many minerals just based on the soil that they're in or that they're grown on top of. And these things can be utilized to help you sustain. But it took a step deeper, and it spoke about making your own condiments. Because so many, even though that's funny too. I was speaking with some brothers that were, watching how they ate, and they were putting certain things and creating certain dishes, but then in order to season those dishes, they were still using things that would be harmful. And so I saw that this right here would be very very useful to create your own condiments, and those are the things that are truthfully supposed to be passed down and passed around to not only friends and close family members, but to all those that that you can reach in order to help them to sustain better.
Right. Because this is like what goes around comes around. What you put into it, you get out of it. All that has a significance when it comes to this type of living or ideology, because whatever work you put into natural existence, it has its way of benefiting you, because what you give to the earth don't mind giving back to you. Yeah. What you give to the universe, whatever you give to the universe, it don't mind giving it back to you. It's like that ripple in the water.
2, 3, 4, 5 times over.
Exactly.
So
exactly. You throw a rock in the water, it's gonna create a wave effect outward, and then right back inward.
Yeah. So, you can go. I want you guys out there, like I said, man, go and get on your internet and try to steer clear of the Corona scare. And in your searches, man, definitely look for a good holistic doctor in your local area, or if not too very far from you. One that people think highly of. And people will only think highly of a holistic doctor normally
because of the results.
Because of the results. There you go. And then as well, really, really look at how you could live off the grid, because at this point in time, that is a true possibility. You know, it's becoming more of a possibility every second of the day. At this
almost
point,
a must.
So
It's getting to a point where it's a must.
yeah.
Because if we're in an age and a time where technological creations and things that are being brought about can affect you, can hear you mention words and bring up advertisement to change your narrative on what or what not to deal with. I mean, how can you say for the life of you, for your life and your livelihood, that might be a problem?
Yeah.
That might just be a problem.
Yeah, like you said, the location was off.
Yeah.
So the brain reaching back to say, hey, this is what's going on from this spot or what have you was not, or it was, quote unquote is off.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing, man.
But, and when you think of things traveling through the air, a brother told me, one of my mentors told me years ago, he said, brother, you have some great ideas, but they don't mean nothing if you don't act on them. He said either you act on them or they move to somebody else, because they are great ideas that need to be put into work. So if you're not going to do what you're told to do, they will move to somebody who will.
Who will, yeah. Who eventually will pick up the
energy.
The energy and flow with it, yeah.
And have
put
the
it into
wherewithal, right, to put it into motion.
Right.
So watch your mouth.
And your thoughts.
And your thoughts. And your motion.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's deep, brother.
Peace and blessings be with that brother forever, man.
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's real. I mean, and people, and it's funny that you're saying that, but I can remember so many times throughout my short life, brother, that someone's told me, man, I had that thought, and then I seen it go over there, and I seen them do this, and that was what took place. They had the thought, but there was no action connecting them to that thought, and apparently that thought was casted into another realm that it would be acted upon.
Exactly. And this is low. I mean, an example, and this is very, very, very minor, but it to me, in my experience, it speaks volume to exactly what I just spoke of. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, we used to go to the lake and fishing a lot, right? And at that time, I wasn't much of a fisherman like my brothers and them. My thing was just, going in, either throwing rocks or, just kicking it with nature or whatnot, having fun outdoors. But you get to a point where there wasn't no playgrounds or nothing like that around. All it was land, rock, water. So since how my interest really wasn't in fishing and there wasn't nothing else to do, I start picking up rocks and throwing them in the water. And when I hear the water or hear the effects of throwing the rocks in the water, you hear the splash, doop-dap, splash, blues. And then the more you hear, then the greater the effect you want to create. So the rocks got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So you pick up this big boulder and you throw it in the water, and instead of saying splash, it says ka-dunk. Yeah. Okay? So that memory stayed with me. As I got older and got more mature, dealing with the opposite sex in females, and I see a beautiful sister with a body, whatever, and I'm checking out their body, I start, what do they say, materializing them to a degree. And when I see a sister with a fine backside, I'll be like, look at that kadunk, because that's what it brought to my mind.
Right, the heavy drop on the water.
Right, the heavy drop on the water.
As opposed to the light drop on the water. Yeah,
now,
that's deep.
Fast forward, at that time, I'm probably 17. Now fast forward 10 years later, this saying becomes prominent in the community with the description of the female body. oh man, she got a kadunk on her mind. I'm hearing this everywhere.
That's crazy, bro. Yeah, that's real.
I didn't know nobody else who had that mind thought at that age that I did, but me. So to hear this saying being used is
It
like
lets
I
you know
just said.
someone else did, though.
I didn't put it out there. I was too young to really, have them circles. So again, back to the synopsis or back to the ideology that the ideas that you use, good or bad, descriptive or not. I'm looking for a word. Marginalizing females or sisters or whatnot. I mean, no matter what, if you don't use it, that energy don't dissipate. So if that's the case with ideas, why isn't that the case with life? Isn't it intertwined?
Yeah.
Isn't the mind where the ideas begin?
Right. Yes, sir. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm just saying. I don't know nothing.
Right. Well, you sound very learned to me, good brother, and it comes off, because what you're saying makes good sense, and it's not one of those things that is anywhere near far fetched. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, normally people can think themselves, people that have some type of age can think, and relay those same type of, feelings. They might not have literally been spoken, but
Right.
they can relate to those same type of. I know I can
Exactly.
on several different levels.
And
So,
if not to cut you off, brother, but I want to say this.
go ahead.
With that being said, I'm not the only one.
Right.
If I got these types of synopsises and thoughts and demands on my moving forward and how I think and the guidances of my ancestors, then I know it's others out there that have that connection or been contacted and connected in order to move forward on things that we're not moving forward on. So I'm just saying, man.
I got that to lend to something else, and this is about personal transition and how we truly affect it. Let's just put it like this. I knew two people, very near and dear to me, from my inception. And as I grew older, they grew older. And we all three remained close contact for a long time. But then certain things began happening in one of the individuals' lives. And they were looking at death and the acceptance of death. And without truly questioning why death is accepted, that one individual almost became entrenched in death. And when I said it to say, as this person lost different people that were close to that person, they began missing those people even more so. And because their mind state was entrenched in the death aspect of it, I remember spending times with this other this other person in this 3-person scenario, and the person would actually call for death in their life until they eventually subsided.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the second party in this scenario always, the entire time has always been pro-life, living, and how to increase life and how to expand life and how to build during the life. And, these two individuals differed maybe almost 10 years in close to 10 years in age, probably close to about 8 or 9 years in age. They were both considered 29 and maybe 20, 22, 23 years older than me. But with that being said, I watched one of the individuals, like I say, come to a demise, and I watched the other individual every single day live and expound upon ways to live better and stronger and ways to better develop the mind and better develop the lungs and better develop the organs that would help sustain a longer life. And it's really amazing because even to this very day, as a natural rule, we got Kenya just checked in with us. As a natural rule, this person's ideology on life is to live. Mm-hmm. And something that you say at the end of our shows a lot of time, Mike, man, is life is for the living.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And it was no major catastrophes that led to one's demise. You know, I believe it was a complete mental scenario. And now I'm going to uncover and tell you, for those that don't know who I'm talking about. And I think I have to do so to make the story even more relatable for everyone that may be listening. As you probably guessed, my mother and my father. Mm-hmm.
That's wild, brother. Yeah. Because when you first started speaking, that's the first thing that came to my mind. Right. And I remember you going through that. I remember you talking about that. Yeah,
man. And it's truly amazing to me because at a time when I saw my mother giving up, I saw my father find out that he had been sitting with a sickness for over 30 years that was succumbing his liver and breaking him down. But the only thing in this man's mind was living. So he made the steps necessary to go and get treatment, mm-hmm. and had 100% turnaround, mm-hmm. brother. And it was just, these are things that I'm able to utilize to make sense of one way or the other. And it just kept hitting me like, wow, like my mother killed herself.
Right. Their minds created their matter, or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. And there you go. And in Pops, it created his matter. I'm watching my dad thrive at, he'd be 74 in 16 days, man.
Some blessings be with that brother.
Amen. And, I can truly say, he might not feel that way, but, in the 44 years I've known him, he's looking better and more attentive to life than, I've ever seen.
Well, he looks as strong or stronger than the last time I seen him before a few days ago. Right. Just as vibrant.
Right. So that's a sign.
Yeah.
That's a sign. Yeah. And in another note, I just lost an uncle who was always, pro-life, up and going and moving. And he had family around him that no doubt loved him to death, loved him. But I don't really feel like once he sustained a sickness, were uplifting enough to help him see through it. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. That's another reason why it's so important for us to share and for us to, be in a situation where we're not isolated from one another, because isolation kills as well.
Exactly.
And it's so crazy that right now, nationally,
They're
the
trying to
government
isolate
is
us.
pushing isolation.
No doubt, brother. No
So,
doubt.
I just, I know that was something that I had sat and thought about, and I really thought whether, I was supposed to share, and then it hit me, that's what I'm here for, is to share. And it all just goes back to, I was attempting, when we came back from break, my attempts were to give you some understanding as to how to keep on going on. And I first pointed at holistic medicine and doctors, also a more sustainable lifestyle, and then as well what Mike says all the time, and that is that life is for the living. Death is something that I personally believe is something that we bring upon us, our own selves, with the mind, with our mind. Our mind brings it into fruition, and once our mind has created a pattern for us, it's just like pretty much anything else. We're going to follow that pattern.
Once you step on that path, it's up to you to get off or maintain.
Absolutely.
And a lot of us don't want to get off.
Yeah. And then some of us do, but we don't know how, we haven't developed the intestinal fortitude and and truthfully, and that's one factor. Some of us, and that's another factor that's really scary. We're so concerned about what somebody else is thinking, or what somebody else may be saying or doing, that it takes us off of our very own personal forward gain and growth. So, that's what I have to add.
And that's where, when you said isolation, it also goes hand in hand with, if you're not going to isolate yourself, make sure you surround yourself with those who want just as much for you as you want for yourself. And you want for them just as much as you want for yourself and for them. Right. Reciprocation, reciprocity of love and life has its benefits. You cannot sustain a positive environment with a negative presence. Only way you can do that is to defeat the negative presence with more positive. Go to any math equation you want to. Go to any scientific scenario of observation you want to. We have to make our thoughts and our structures of thoughts in motion from the aspect for which it was developed from, not from hearsay, not from what somebody else chooses for us, but from the aspect of, first step, second step, third step. The rules to the first step is this. The rules to the second step is that. And when I say that, I mean from the actual aspect of how to finish the equation. The rules and regulations to finish, or if not finish, get to a conclusion to go to the next equation. It's deeper than free lunch. It's deeper than free lunch. Anything you give for me for free, 9 times out of 10 I don't need it. Most times than not, it's going to be harmful. And the desire of being starved is what makes me take it. So, like I tell my sons and my children, my daughters all the time, if the lesson is not hard, it's not worth having. If the scenario that you're going through, if you don't push yourself past the limits of what you think you can sustain, then you'll never know how far you can get. And that's existence from the physical to the mental. Because if I can push my body, then my mind knows that I can do that.
I just related back to a conversation we had probably about oh man, 6 or 7 years ago, we were talking about mental capacity and the use of the brain and how much it's depleted over time. And we were talking about historically a group of brothers that were shapeshifters.
Mm-hmm.
Remember you expounded
Mm-hmm.
upon that, and we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about the keloid and skin
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
the benefit of that, and what it did to help these brothers do what they needed to do to move about. And I just relate that to now as far as like brain function. I think right now that it's an important time for us to really, because because there is going to be a lot of isolation going on here soon. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be, you're going to be in a situation where your jobs are closed, the schools that your children will go to are going to be closed. It's going to be a serious time for families to be together.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I think now is a time that, because personally, I believe we're going to get through this situation. I believe this situation is going to, it's going to go its time. Definitely, we're losing people. People are going to be dying. There's going to be some lot. That's what it's
Geared towards.
Yeah, no one sat in a lab and created coronavirus so that people can live.
How about that?
They did it so that they could, figure out ways in which knocking people off. So in that, this situation is going to provide time. It's going to provide time, and how we use this time on this isolation scenario, I think is going to dictate how strong we will be when it comes back around. Because whereas I do believe the larger part of the population is going to make it through this, I don't believe this is the last attempt. I don't believe that once we get past this, everything is golden now. No, I do believe that shortly after, it'll be another attempt, and it'll be another attempt, just like it has been, that we can count probably for a little over 20 years now. I think the very first big major national scare that like we've seen in my lifetime anyway was when the tower, the World Trade Center was sized down with those airplanes, and that scenario created mass hysteria in the United States. Like people went crazy during that time. Again, it wasn't something that was that was designed to take out anything other than the people that were involved in that situation and the ones that were, I guess, on first responding style scenario, because a lot of them lost lives and got sick and so forth. But it was a scenario that produced public unsettlement.
This is a test.
There you go. And I think since then, the testing process has ended, and now we're there. Now, what's being unleashed on society is the different lab rats that have been being developed for God only knows how many years. And now the process is to see how many people the rats can infect, for lack of better words.
Mm-hmm.
But relating back to what you had told me about our minds and our brains, I think at this time, when we get a chance to sit down with our family members, old and young alike, I think this is a time that we should be disconnecting ourselves from everything that has us in that position, first and foremost, meaning, the media, the news, the phones, the computers, the televisions, and we should seriously look within ourselves as to what we can do to protect ourselves moving forward, with or without, monetary opportunity. And I know that a lot of people are still, a lot of people are like, well, what can I do without money? Well, there's a lot of things you can do without money.
You about to find out.
You definitely about to find out real soon. And that's going to be the test of man, because man has become so dependent upon the tool of money. I think that's going to be one of our major tests going into these type of scenarios. Is how strong am I? How dominant am I without the jewels and the riches?
How do you create a strength from a weakness? It's called supply and demand. So if the demand for something is high and the supply is low, that makes it worth more. And I say that from the aspect of, if there's no jobs, there's no way for you to make money, your demand for that money gets higher, which raises the value of that money, which right now the value of the government, of the American dollar, is worthless. So to create a scenario that helps build the wealth and the worth of that dollar bill is very important to a country and a system that is trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. Where do we step from there? How do we deal with this on the level of family? Like the brother was saying, because this is the trying time that is really going to put us to the test of seeing how close we really are, seeing what we really willing to do and go through for one another to keep ourselves fortified, to keep ourselves sustainable and above water, to keep ourselves in a good, positive position. So we have to really focus and hone in on our self-values, our self-worth, our self-love, and that in turn will trigger a vision and a viewpoint of those and those things and those humans around us who have the same value to us, the same worth to us, and can make a presence or mark with their presence as far as moving us towards betterment. Forever is forever. Physical form just because we say, or I say, what's the use? What is what is death? Why is it indoctrinated into our system? Doesn't mean that everything lasts past its worth. We transition every day, even in the simplest form of existence, which I alluded to as far as equations, science, and mathematics. Everything transitions from one step to the next to get to another step. So whatever that step is, I don't know, but whatever that step is, the energy stays constant. Just because you unplug your TV from the wall, that doesn't mean that the electricity is not there.
Right.
It just means that the circuit is broken. Okay? When you plug it back in, that energy flows just like it has been flowing. So we have to actually get to a point where we infuse our energy and our electricity by staying plugged in to those who have the similar and the familiar and the power of that same electricity. We have to stay plugged into our grid, which actually existed billions and billions of years ago as far as ancestral energy. And the same thing that I was speaking about as far as the transference in sending us signals and giving us warnings and giving us the heads up on things that we were stepping into that was either good or bad for us. And those of you who experience these type of situations and wonder, well, whoa, I had just had a dream about that, or man, I dreamt about that and it happened the other day, or any of that connection. You know what I'm talking about. So ante up. put your money where your mouth is, and your money ain't got nothing to do with that paper. It has to do with your actions and your wealth of knowledge and your wealth of experience and the love that you have for yourself first and foremost, then for those who exist to make you become what you've become.
Yeah.
Plug back in. Unplug from the status quo, or unplug from the grid, the matrix. You got to become that Neo.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got to find you. You got to find us. But once we find you, what pill you gonna take?
Yeah, that's deep. That's deep, and it's. I mean, the closer, or as time elapses, the more that makes even more sense. You know, and it's not to say that it has never made sense at one point in time. It's always made, but as we're going further into where we're going to right now, everything that you just said, brother, makes so much more sense.
Hopefully we can see clear, because this is 2020.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can see clearer.
Yeah. Most definitely. I wanted to add just a little bit before we get ready to close out here, and that is locally. I just wanted to give some information. Like I said before, in the coming weeks, I think Brother Mike was explaining to me shortly before us getting here to the studio that that we were about 2 weeks behind some of the other areas across the world that are suffering from this situation right now. And that is to say that here things are becoming somber. We got areas of the United States that are normally packed out with people just moving and grooving and going about their everyday life, and those areas right now are looking like ghost towns. And that's not to say that people have left those areas, but it appears that they are isolating themselves into their homes, and probably even some scenarios are leaving. But the question is, in this scenario, where do you really go? You know, if let's just say that you're, you know, that you've been making $25,000 or $30,000 the last few years, and you know, maybe you're in a joint. Let's start off first for the guy that's alone. That's been making maybe $25,000 or $30,000, maybe $40,000 a year.
Well, brother, let's start out with those who can't sustain life without having to go somewhere to make that money. Because if you at a certain bracket, then you can go home and work from your computer and still make your money.
Right. As long as the money is going to be produced for the field.
Exactly. But if you're talking about what dudes say, we're the greatest economy that we've had, and such. And the Dow has broke records and and this and that, and the money this and the money.
Yeah, so
it's there, but it's there for who?
Right, yeah.
Because if you're shutting down jobs and you're shutting down this,
you
and
work
you're
somebody's
down
warehouse, what can a person do? Yeah.
Then where you gonna get that money from?
Yeah. That person basically their whole gaining process is obsolete.
It's gone.
So now comes the criminal aspect.
Hey.
Pillaging and looting to survive, to live.
Remember, Kemp just brought up the National Guard. He just activated the National Guard. So, steps, man. You know, they not doing one thing not to not do another. You know, it's. I mean, it don't take a rocket scientist to see that they have initiated something that's going to put people, impoverished people, in scenarios and situations to be thoroughly and truly tested. What side of the coin you gonna get on? Because right now, if they move forward in the way that these steps seemingly show, your choice is to either live or die.
Yeah.
And not to say that there's multiple ways of achieving those goals,
Right.
but still, if you can't work and you still got to pay bills and you still got to pay rent or lease or house notes, car notes, if you got to still do all this and you working at a job that you have to be at in order to work, but they shutting everything down in quarantine, and you can't take your forklift home and still unload that same warehouse onto the truck.
That's right.
Then what do?
What if you drive Uber or Lyft for a living?
What do? You can't take your computer home and still create the same sales and emotion of commerce.
Right.
What do? Who are they really shutting down and shutting out?
Right. Right.
So I'm just saying.
I would. You know, one thing that I would really like to know right now is a lot of these guys that are running around with millions of dollars, football players and basketball players, baseball players. What are they doing with their money? Are they trying to get their monies out of the banks right now?
Man, that's a good question, brother. It's
because
a trip that you say that.
The money is only going to be so good. I mean,
Right.
that digital money is only good
Right,
as long as the system's on.
right,
Because when the system go down,
right.
you're just like everybody else.
Paper
You
is
might have a bigger spot to hide in,
right.
which will make your spot a
bigger target. And easier to be seen.
And in this situation, it makes me say, well, you know, and for a lot of those people that are in those positions, like, you know, that have just been standing by and, you know, have their money tucked and not really paying it forward, not really helping anybody out, not really putting anything into motion that could help mass amounts of people out, you know, you know, in a scenario like this, you know, how does that make you feel? I mean,
Right.
to know that you could have helped out for so long, or that you could have changed and put a different scenario into place for so long, but you stood idly by, being thankful for your very own riches.
Sounds like to me we need to bring back the Underground Railroad. How about evolving that? How about creating a way out of no way? Because that's what that represented to me. And we talking, scenarios that who knows, may or may not, whatever. But read the signs, man. Check out the steps. Anything is possible. Everything is possible. Everything is possible when minds are put to scenarios or put to the test in getting to a place of functionality or dysfunctionality. So that's both sides of the coin. What are we going to do in opposition of what they doing to us?
Right.
And whoever us is and whoever they is.
That's the biggest question.
Are you still down? Are you still down for me?
Yes, sir.
Pot
boy, man, oh man.
And it is what it is, and I'm just I'm not trying to make light of it. It's just bringing things right on back around the home, man. I mean, for real. The coronavirus is one thing. A virus of any kind. I mean, ask your computer. When your computer gets a virus, what happens to it? It shuts down.
It shuts down.
So are we going to shut down, or are we going to be the cure?
Absolutely.
Because the mental capacity of creation is within us because of the Creator that created us. If I'm not like my father, then I live bastardly. And how many of us are living bastardly because we want to live in the way of a thought of God or something other than actually what created you from within?
Right. That's, man.
I don't know nothing, but I can hear and I can see.
And you also got that thing inside of you. I don't know how to truly describe it other than the creator in you that notifies you. That notifies you. At least if you have if your mind is thinking,
you got on that frequency,
right? If you're on a frequency of what we call the norm right now, there's something inside you that tells you, hey man, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Or that right there is not what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
The question is, how many of us listen to that, or even bear witness, or even care about,
And sadly enough, brother, how many of us chose to disconnect?
Even more so. Yeah, that's horrible. That's that like you said, sadly enough, brother.
What do say? How I'd never imagined how something that I know that I'm not eating could taste so good. I know that this is not real. I know that this is not real, but boy, sure tastes like steak to me.
Yeah. Did that come from
the Matrix?
Okay, well, the Demolition Man. I don't know if you saw it, but when Stallone went underground and they gave him the rat burger, he found out what it was. Yep. He used to like, man, best burger I had in years. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So definitely be safe out there, people. And when I say be safe with be with a safe state of mind, and pay very close attention to everything right now. Everything. But especially don't become diluted by anything.
Right. Right.
But be inquisitive.
Be diligent.
And definitely, man, utilize the brothers and sisters, the learned brothers and sisters in your circle, or even outside of your circle. If you got to reach outside of it and pull in some new energy, you got brothers and sisters that's been around for years and years and years and years and years, man, and have overcome, situations like this time and time again. Yeah,
they are decoders, and they know the scenarios and the synopsises, and they foreseers, and they not really telling you what they can tell you over what you need to know over the air, because they have to watch their steps too.
That's right.
But when they plant the seeds, it's up to you to make sure it's fertilized properly and it's watered properly and it's tended to.
Absolutely.
So we have to do our diligence. We have to not point our fingers in lieu of what's not happening, but deal with what is given to us and make the best of it. That's what we've done, at least, especially for the last 600 years.
Yeah, I'll say that for sure.
Even
though some of what we've had to resort to is, been
death.
We have survived.
Right.
We've survived.
Right.
I mean, we have survived, and
we live to live another day.
That's right.
We live to put another generation on the map so they could do better than what was taught to us, and hopefully we continue that trend in a faster motion, so that these generations to come will be so far on top of the game that we can actually nullify it as being a game.
Absolutely. I love that, brother. I love that. I want to add real quick before we get out of here that we will be back here for you guys next week. Be it God's will.
Be the will of the Creator, no doubt.
We will be right here to further shed light on some things that are going on. I'm going to make it a point this week to try and get a holistic doctor to either call in or appear with us live here, just in the line of moving in the right direction with our vehicles that we're utilizing at this point. Our bodies, to help us to further and better sustain our bodies, because right now if we do intend on living, we need to be as strong as we possibly can. And I think this would be a good platform for a holistic doctor to utilize, because all of the different locations that we can be heard across the world would definitely allow for some information to be passed along.
Exactly.
So I'm going to make it my point this week to make sure I can, like I said, either get one to call in for us, or one to actually appear with us live here, just so we can, again, get some better understanding on sustainability as a whole. Because, again, the most important thing that I've gathered from this conversation, from sitting here with Brother Mike SYPHA today, is that we have to be more diligent upon how we're treating ourselves, and how we're with no better way to say it, of how what we're actually feeding ourselves. And that's on every level, not just on
every level.
That's not just on the food level, or on the drinking level, or on the air that we're breathing. That's on the mental level too, spiritual level too. So those are the things I think we need to definitely focus in on, especially during these times of unrest. So, with that being said, Brother Mike, man, great show.
No doubt, brother.
If there's anything else you want to add, man, before we close out, man.
Well, I just want to say, like I say, love every day, live every day, and make life a part of life. Life is for the living, and living is for the life. And until you change, nothing or nobody around you changes. So just maintain your focus, maintain your desire and your love, and just do the best you can do.
Absolutely. We're going to drop a little more jazz on you, along with the good Brother Mike's poetic stance on this piece that we utilize to do our intro and outro. And we're going to bid you all farewell. Be safe. Stay.
BCV.
Yes, sir. Man, I didn't even people. We just sat here all day long. I didn't even people. My brother, Black Conscious Voice, will be back at you soon. So definitely be on the lookout. But I was just really recognizing, I'm going to add this real quick, man. We've got a serious archive online, man. You can go go and Google Black Conscious Voices and see shows. Also over the ATL Web Radio Instagram, man. We have segments from shows from 2014, 2015, 2016. Where we were really working and turning over some stones, providing some really good information, man. Just like we are, currently doing. But it's to say that this is a life. This is a mission that we are embarked upon. We don't have anything that physically or monetarily promotes this show or produces this show. This is all based on the brother Mike, myself, us wanting to give this to the world, and it's to be something that even after we have moved on into a different location, the world can be able to utilize this information and way of thinking in order to continuing on. So I want to give props to ourselves, Mike. Without making too big of a spectacle, man. But we've been putting in some good work, man. And Black Conscious Voices is definitely something that I know a lot of people out there have looked forward to for quite some time. It's an open forum, so I invite phone calls next week. I'm going to have it across the screen for you guys to be able to call 404-919-9363. But you can call that throughout the week with any thoughts. If you want to call and schedule something for next Sunday's show, feel free. But yeah, we definitely love to hear from you. And not just people that have something to offer, but people that want to learn as well.
Right.
Because this is a process. Each one teach one.
Right.
Whereas you might feel like you don't have anything to offer. You could come in here with something, or be viewed with something, or be seen with something, or produce a certain understanding verbally that could change everyone's involved's lives, man.
Right.
So Everyone's welcome. This is Black Conscious Voices. Truthfully, this is for the conscious mind. This is for the mind of the woke. To be able to come and expound, to learn, to trade information with, man, in order for everyone to be able to gather and grow in a positive manner. So definitely, man, stay in tune with us. We just put the Black Conscious Voices page together on the website. And I'm about to put a form on there so that you can actually go there and drop your name and email address and phone number and as well a thought or a question or anything that you want to leave for us. And I'm very attentive to that stuff. As soon as it pops in, I always go through it. And if it's something here for this show, we'll definitely make it public, make it known. So even if you don't have the ability to speak live with us, we can relay information. By the way, that's the beautiful part about this internet right now, man, is that we have the ability to relay information and we don't have to be seen or physically heard. So definitely reach out by way of the website, by way of 449199363, or as well you can email info@atlwebradio.com. And get the word to us, man. If you hear something incorrect, by all means correct us, brother. So that's where we at with it. Mm-hmm. Black Conscious Voices. We'll be at you next Sunday, somewhere around noon. Be it God's will, like I said, man. Be it the Creator's will. We'll be here with more information, more understanding, more love.
Definitely.
Going forward. So
definitely
keep it locked right here, atlwebradio.com. Brother Mike, man, I love you, brother, and I appreciate you.
Brother. I appreciate
always, you, brother. Coming and teaching and guiding me, man. And
brother, that's a symbiotic thing.
Absolutely.
Vice versa.
Absolutely, man.
Because like you say, if you're not tuned in,
you're gonna be tuned.
You're gonna be tuned out.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Y'all keep it locked.
They say the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's the color of one's skin and the beauty of one's eye. So many of us talk about dark skin, light skin, what is and what ain't within, but we overlook it all for the booty. You see, the physical has no bearing on the elegance and grace of the spiritual and mental one that's inside you, that creates the only one of you that it takes millions to make. I'm talking black and light, not white, the substance of nothingness, a blank page of anger and rage, giving you the belief of death, not rest. Life is a cipher, a circle that never ends, passing by trends and fads of trends, only to come black again.